I mean, we just ended African American political power, by the way, because of the demographic changes. Just basically made it, you know, both parties have paid, especially the Democratic Party, a lot of attention to what black voters want because they're a huge part of the Democratic coalition. And now that's not true. And so it's not, this is a complicated question. Anyone who says, oh, it's just white racism is, what is your average black person in Chicago, native born, family been here 300 years? What does he think of watching his city overwhelmed with illegal aliens?
You know, exactly what they think. I was up in Chicago last week. I met with hundreds. I met with black pastors. Black pastors are upset.
Well, they should be upset.
Yeah, they feel like, people who are not supposed to be here, enter the country legally, which is a crime. I'm going to keep talking about that, are getting massive amounts of care, right? Free hotel room, 3 square meals a day, free medical care. And the black community feels left behind because a lot of these people are, they could use some of that tax money in Chicago to help them. And they're taxpayers. They should have the first chance to get some of that help. But the mayor of Chicago just, he's ignoring his own community. And I was up there just over a week ago, and I met with hundreds of people that were up there. And they're suffering because of the decisions to take care of these illegal aliens. I mean, I saw city transit buses parked running fuel as warming buses. How about taking care of the homeless people in that city? Let them get on a warming bus. But, they'd rather put these illegal aliens in a hotel room at $500 a night in the Roosevelt Hotel in New York City.
Well, yeah. And they also,
Man, imagine that. $500 a night. So that's $5,000 in 10 days. $10,000 in 20 days. And $15,000 in 30 days. That's how much a single illegal alien gets. Who rent is $15,000 at the Roosevelt Hotel? It amazes me, man, how much these individuals was trying to squash the black vote, gain a new voter base, don't want voter ID to take place because they want illegal immigrants to vote for them after giving them so much. It seemed like more than anything, they wanted a takeover of government, and they was going to do it by force with Joe Biden in office. They wanted the United States to go completely blue. Primarily, I should say, in the Southwest. California is already, don't even want to talk about California because it's bad. It's real bad. But when you stretch up over there in Chicago, New York, Philadelphia, all these cities that have been traumatized with the illegal immigration, and you think about, like, what happened to the Democratic Party? Why did they change their base from being black, the black vote, to the illegal immigrant vote? What makes them want to make that shift? That's something that has to be studied and talked about, because if we don't acknowledge this, we will allow the Democratic Party to stay in office, because I'm considering that more than anything else, that the Democratic Party has itself become a terrorist organization. A terrorist organization that you shouldn't believe, that you shouldn't trust. First of all, at the State of the Union address, it was a sad day, because just think about this for a minute. And this is the difference between looking at the Democratic Party and looking at the Republican Party. Look who was on the Democratic side. I'm just going to ask you to look. Go back and do a little research and look about who was on the Democratic side at the State of the Union address. Because what you don't see there is a bunch of diehard Americans. Because if you did, we wouldn't be in the situation that we are in now. And the level of disrespect as we're going into right here with regards to the black vote, the people who have so greatly assisted in the foundations of this country, and for two white males to acknowledge this, along with the president of the United States. How did we go from the porter in chief to with Obama to Joe Biden with the open border policy to realizing that we did wrong with the whole open border idea to systematically try to give these individuals who came over here, some type of asylum, fight for it, seemingly to the death of your own party. And to sit here and say that it's worth it that much. So when I tell you to go over there and look at the State of the Union address and see who the Democratic Party has fighting with regards to this issue, consider that, because there lies the problem. To where, for one thing, what you have over there, you don't have individuals who are even third generation United States citizens. Why I consistently push that for you to be a part of any type of representation that represents the United States as part of Congress in terms of elections, you have got to be, in terms of leadership, you have got to become at least third generation United States citizen in order for you to want to take on that leadership role and that Americans can have that trust in you so that we know that you are trying to do what's right for the country. We have a big problem.
This is a democracy, so we make decisions based on population size. And if you dilute the population, you dilute the political power of the people who are born here, very much including black people. So really, it's a takeover of our government, of our democratic system. And I just want to say it for the third time, it completely disenfranchises black people. And
it's called America First. Every African American citizen in this country is entitled to a government that puts their jobs, wages, and security first. One of the greatest betrayals has been the issue of immigration. Illegal immigration violates the civil rights of African Americans. That's what's been.
And it's amazing that, with regards to civil rights, that the whole people that fought for our whole idea of civil rights are not actually the ones who's getting it. That seemingly the civil rights is going to everybody else except the people who fought for it. And that's real sad because here everybody receives the benefit from that. And I know people getting tired of hearing that, but this is something that has to be pushed and identified with and absolutely studied because how, like I said, where did the crossover come from? Well, first of all, you got to realize that the whole Civil Rights Act policy was actually, when Lyndon B. Johnson actually signed it into law, it was a Republican bill. That the Voting Rights Act too. So was the Immigration Act of 1965, where I'm just gonna say with that bill because I haven't did enough studying on it. Majority Republicans voted for that too. But here we are. We're in a place to where it has become too much, and we know that it becomes too much. And one side just doesn't want to draw back from it. One side would rather just bankrupt the country with regards to that. Man, when I hear Donald Trump saying that this country would have been in a bad state with Kamala Harris in office if we would have had 4 more years of Joe Biden, because, you know, you really didn't hear that much from the dude. It's like he didn't want to ask really, complex questions unless it was pushing an agenda. Like he was a high school president. He was in office as a high school president. He wanted to push ideas, but didn't know all the rules that in going to the principal, which would require these rules to be put into place. Like, can we reopen our lockers? Can we have our lockers back in public schools in South Central? No, that we can't do that. Why we can't do that? Not knowing the background of things, while probably just knowing the background of things, while getting funneled money somehow. Here you is, you pushing the policies just because the money is coming in for your side. That was seeming like it was what was going on with the Democratic Party under Joe Biden.
Can happen.
This is why the black man and woman of America are independent from now on. You understand me? Because
All right, so this is a spot. This individual's name is Tory. I'm gonna let him go on this little rant a little bit, and I'm going to, you know, react to what he's talking about. You know, one thing about me, I learned how to not be too thick on blackness to where it blinds me to the point to where I have conjured up, a sense of hate because I think it clouds judgment, and I hope that same aspect for all United States citizens when it comes to the idea of being in this country, right? That we are a diverse country. We have become a diverse country because of the Immigration Act of 1965, more of a diverse country. So, for us to continue to have the privilege that we have in this country, you know, I don't go so deep into my history, even though I have gone that deep into my history, but I don't let it allow it to cloud my judgment into what's better for me in this country. So while he's talking about being independent, I've always considered that because we don't have the Black Panther Party, that we've always needed a party that represents black people, seemingly for so long that was likely to be or thought of to be the Democratic Party. But how they just did the system within the last 4 years and exposed themselves for who they really are and not caring, man. But I'm gonna let him talk, and I might comment on what he has to say with regards to this whole issue of illegal immigration, because seemingly so many Black Americans feel the same way, even if they've accepted it. They are coming to realize the truth.
we see right here clear evidence of how dirty this game is. The Democratic Party literally tried to flood the system with new voters using illegal immigration. They tried to erase the black vote, man, because they seen that the last election, black people in America were not voting Democrat. The ones that were voting Republican. And so the Democrats realized that, look, it's going to look bleak in the future. If the blacks don't vote for them, they're never going to win. So what did they do? They under the table, y'all, with all sorts of incentives. Incentives that were gained off the blood, sweat, and tears of the foundational Black American. These mother. That's why we stayed in the house when ICE was unleashed to do their job and clean up the streets of America of these illegals.
First of all, man, I would like to say, man, what you think been happening to us for so long? I don't see what's the problem with ICE, because ICE is nothing more than a bounty hunter. With all the black men that you had under bond in this country for so long, putting up under bond, giving bail, putting up under bond, under the bond system, to where if they don't show up to a court appearance, here you is You knocking on their door. It don't matter who family up in there, what family member is up in there. If that dude doesn't show up to a court appearance, if he don't show up to his parole or probation officer at a certain time, if he absconds, it doesn't matter who in the house. It does not matter who in the house. The ICE agent is nothing but a bounty hunter. When you think about it, he's just a federalized bounty hunter who, has the duty of securing the border. If you look at it like that, then what's the problem? You know what I'm saying? There, it shouldn't be no problem, especially when you talking about things like, well, these people shouldn't be separated from their family members. Well, okay, the obvious thing to do if they didn't want to be separated from their family members was to come over here legally, first and foremost. But even with that, here you are, you want to go ahead and say that ICE has been doing something that a regular state officer, such as a parole agent or somebody, agent such as a bounty hunter, doesn't have a right to do when you are still allowing the state officers to do it to the United States citizen, but you won't allow these federal officers to do it to these illegal immigrants.
That's why we looked and investigated deeply when we heard that there was billions of dollars being given out to non-Americans, and they were sending it back to countries that didn't support the betterment of this beautiful land. It's some bullshit, y'all. Go ahead, do your research if you don't believe Tyrone. But we
So, with regards to that whole remittance thing, to where the money is not being circulated back into the country, since President Trump has took office, he has charged a percentage of the remittance, and because of that, the remittances have gone. It's the remittance tax. Money going across the border has gone down significantly. I think in some cases by 10%. Exclusively money that is going into places like Mexico.
only drop the facts here at the spot. And we dare those to dispute it because we know once you investigate what we're talking about, you're going to come to the same point of view, the same decisions about what is going on and what should happen in the Black American community from this point on when it comes to the political game. They can't be trusted. There's no way that this should be investigated to a point where it's almost a threat to the national security and to the civility of democracy.
That's exactly what I'm saying. It's like almost that it's almost like the Democratic Party has become a terrorist organization, to where they seemingly trying to overthrow the government, especially when it becomes to this whole voter ID thing, and voter rights thing. How you spent so much money in these states, particularly blue states, to have the United States citizen buy you a whole new voter block off the taxpayers' dollars, man. And you sit out here and you tell the individuals who have come over here from the Immigration Act in 1965 that these are your family members, that you should go out there and protest and fight for them. Like you have a standing army. You try to draw the black people in under this whole DEI issue, when the whole DEI issue was generally meant to replace the black American out of this country, as you need a new voter base. Then you want to turn around and tell the black voter to go ahead and go out there and with these protesters. With regards to this issue, I can see why you can understand why the black person is not going out there, why the black person is seemingly being fed up with regards to this whole issue. So now, uh, I'm gonna honestly say I see a little bit more respect coming from the immigrant community but I also see a lot more hate as well, depending on who that individual is. But it's not my fault that so much immigration has happened to this country to where the white man has noticed it. Because we, as a black Americans, we have been dealing with this issue for so long that it's like, man, um, since before the Immigration Act of 1965, we have been dealing with this issue for so long that if we just could have got the same opportunities, America would be so much more better. It's crazy.
When you have a portion of the government conspiring to move illegals in so they can erase and offset the votes of Americans, foundational Americans at that. We need to know who is calling the shots for the Democratic Party. Where do they get their funding? Because if you follow the money trail, it'll probably lead to people that are racist against the original black man or woman. Now we understand when so many of these immigrants come to these lands and they tell us when they first get here, they're told to stay away from the black Americans. That's because the political party that is harboring these fugitives do not like us. And it's apparent.
And to be honest, they never did. Listen, I'm gonna get off this issue because I'm not trying to make this seem like away from this dude, even though I like him, because I don't want to this issue make it seem like it's too, overly pro-black and not with regards to us as all being Americans, right? I want to stay on point. So I'm a cut him loose, but I believe his name is Tyrone. His YouTube page is The Spot. He has, you know, good content out there. This is one of the videos that I generally liked about it, even though I haven't watched the video in a little while and didn't remember what he said. I decided to go ahead and make a reaction to it because it was in my logs. So here I am giving you a reaction, and he's saying exactly what I'm saying. It's just seemingly crazy how, first of all, you have like when did we become black people are not offered into no other community. I'm not a part of the Rasa. I'm not, you know what I'm saying? I'm not part of the Chinese community. I'm not part of the Korean community. We gladly we have some friends. We do have some people who, you know, appreciate the black community, right? But in no way am I a part of any of those communities to where I can have an effect on those communities. So why should these communities have an effect on mine? I'm talking about in a positive way. Now, people don't want us in their communities because it seems like it's negative, but we have statistically proven, we have data that shows how much illegal immigration is most certainly affecting our community. The only thing that went wrong, it became apparent to the white people, the United States citizen. Uh, Tiny Cross-H.U.G on the Trumped Up Live show. Always remember, man, like, share, subscribe to the channel. It's a good day to be a soldier.